studies have shown for decades that 50 to 75% of leaders are ineffective. But it was that way in 1998, and it's still that way today. So our goal back then, or our vision, was to revolutionize leadership. Because there's two reasons, for the most part, that leadership's broken. Number one is bad fit. A lot of people are in jobs that they're not best suited for. And that's what we do. We measure, are you a strategic leader? Are you highly sociable, engaging leader? Are you maybe not a leader and do something else, right? Maybe you're better of a technical expert and that sort of thing. So we're very clear and honest about that.
You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, best-selling author, and Maxwell Leadership Certified Trainer, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some tips and techniques to advance yourself coming up next. Today's episode is sponsored by the GoingNorthPodcast.com shop. And we got some new designs on the website, baby. That's right. Check out the new designs. We got two new designs. One is outread your competition to outlead your competition. And the other one is perfection is completion, but excellence is exceeding expectations. Because when you feel like something's perfect, it's truly not. But when you seek excellence, you are after exceeding the expectations of the folks you serve and your past self. So head over to GoingNorthPodcast.com.shop and pick up some more magical gear in multiple forms in more ways than one. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as GP, the great, glorious, and glamorous, is the Going North Podcast. And we got another super special, awesome human for you today. That's right, D, courtesy of Podmatch.com, where podcast guests get to connect with podcast hosts. And if they're cool, they're in. And today's guest is definitely freaking it. She's cooler than two cucumbers, baby. That's right, indeed. Let me tell you a little bit about it, because she is a best-selling author, folks. That's right, indeed. Not only has she written books, she's also sold a great deal of them too, as well as a wonderful mother, grandmother, wife, and award-winning executive coach, international thought leader, and the CEO and president of the CDR Assessment Group Incorporated. So let's give it up for the NP herself, the one and only Nancy Parsons. How you doing today, Nancy?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How about you?
Oh, feeling great too.
Good.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. With all the R's and all the T's. That's right indeed. It could be green or black tea. It don't matter. Sweet tea is always welcome as well.
There you go.
Oh man, but it ain't about teas and all the tea bags. It's about the wonderful natural dance yourself. So as you know, with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 18 days long, and I probably only covered maybe 2 minutes out of the 18 days. Am I filling a sin on your backstory of how you got to where you were today, since it's your first time here on Going North?
Yeah. I mean, I started many years ago at a shipyard in actually Chester, Pennsylvania. It's no longer there, and in HR, and worked my way up and was promoted to the coal mines in Wyoming, and then eventually to the pipelines of Oklahoma. So I was in the energy industry for the first part of my career. Then I started consulting. I was married and started consulting work, and fell in love with assessments. And eventually in 1998, co-founded my business with Kim Leverage. She's an IO psychologist, and we developed our own assessments, and we use them for executive coaching and development, and even for employee selection. We have international clients. We're still boutique in size, but recently the coolest thing I've ever done was 2 years ago, we released a new digital avatar coaching system. So now we not only have live executive coaches around the globe. Now, for the people who aren't provided with executive coaching, they can use our avatar system to have feedback with their assessments to get their careers on track. So that's been really exciting. So here I am, as you said, a grandmother, and I just started a tech company. It's like, so, and I'm a dog lover. You can see in the back, I'm a dog lover, and just And this work that I do is just, it's amazing. It's so much fun to help people really discover what's best about them. So that's what I do, is help them find their true talent and what they love. So I don't think I could write a better job description. So that's kind of me. And I like to paint on the side and write books. There you go.
Should have known the P in Parsons stood for painter. That's right indeed. She's painting, y'all. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Ain't just with no fingers. It's with them brushes, them pretty brushes. That's right indeed. Painting poodles. That's right indeed.
Right. Pooches and birds and and flowers, pretty much.
That's right indeed. And that's really awesome though, like starting a tech company, being a grandmother, that's right indeed, proving that old cliche wrong. It's like, hey, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's like, hey, you could teach old dogs how to meow. They got new tricks. They always got new tricks.
Right.
That's right indeed. They're tricks for the kids and the grown ups. So what led to this growth mindset of yours? Did you always have it in you, or was it just from all the years of doing the HR stuff?
No, I think it was in me. I was the middle of 5 kids. I'm the first one in my family, the only to graduate college, but I was an athlete. I was an athlete. I was in every sport, believe it or not, even at my age. I played softball, I played basketball, I played, I was on the swim team, dive team, basically even when I was in my early 20s, I was on a women's football team, 2-hand touch, and we won the Philadelphia championship. So I think I was just always driven and competitive, just naturally. I was in like drill team, and in school, I never went home till 10 o'clock at night because I was in activity. So I think, and I don't know why it hit me. I'm the third kid, my other siblings weren't quite as driven as, I mean, they did fine, but I was the one that was kind of somehow hardwired to just go, go, go. Nobody, and so I went with that. So when I started into my work career, I would take jobs that were new and I would build them into other things because I was always aggressive going after trying to solve problems. I was just kind of a natural, oh, this isn't right. We ought to fix this. How can we do this? So that led me to be able to be promoted even beyond, people who had better degrees than I did and so forth, because I could get it done. Does that make So that's kind of how because I wasn't traditional even in my college. I was pregnant and was going to school at night. It took me 10 years just to get my bachelor's degree at night. But meanwhile, I was moving up because I was getting the job done, right? Because I was aggressive, hardworking, and could figure things out. Was fortunate there. And I had great bosses who supported me. They didn't I think today it's a lot harder if you don't have those traditional degrees and everything early on. I think it's harder for people, but the good news is companies are starting to realize we can't just look at the degree. We have to look at what the person can do. And that's even what our assessments measure, because often the person without the degree will perform better. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't get a degree. If you can, that's great. But if you don't feel like this is the end or you have to be in a dead end job because you don't, so anyway, I think, yeah, I don't know. I guess it was just kind of in my nature, if you will. And, and I was fortunate because even, like I said, at my age, living right outside of Philadelphia, there were a lot of opportunities for us, living in a small town, borough, whatever you want to call it. And I, even field hockey I played. So there was a lot of sports even for girls back then. So that was I was very lucky. I can't encourage everyone enough to have their kids in sports, in activities, other things like that to really help them with their self-confidence, understand how to work in a team, how to get along with people, and also just how to become the best you can be. It just forces you, because you're driven to become the best you can be, right? So you always are practicing, you're always wanting to do better. And it's fun. You don't do it because it's drudgery. You do it because it's a place in your heart. It feels good. You feel good when hey, I can run a little faster this time, or maybe we can beat this team and win this playoff, kind of thing. So I was very lucky.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. My father worked a graveyard shift at the Philadelphia Inquirer. So, we were happy, blue collar family. So I was just fortunate.
Ah, there we go. Might as well add hashtag grandma too. That's right indeed. That's why she stays fabulous, because she's always on the move. That's right indeed. Ever since a younger tot. That's right indeed. Always on the go. Always on the go indeed. And not just north, but to the west and then to the south.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good though, definitely, and it's actually interesting you mentioned all those activities, because you're so right about that with sports, definitely, because it does teach teamwork, and then you get to see that visible progress. If you stick with it, you get to see your growth along the journey, and you're better fit for life even after high school. And if you keep it up in college, you like take better care of yourself by default, because it's like, hey, you can't really treat your body like crap if you're in sports.
That's right. That's right. And even if you're done after high school or college in sports, you still, like you said, you still want to stay fit because you want to at least participate some. You're not going to be at that maybe same level, but most people that are that active stay active, which is great long term.
Heck yeah, that's right indeed. This probably keeps while your brain probably stays young too, because you develop these wonderful assessments. So my goodness, so what led you down that path? Did you figure out that folks love assessments so much because they get to figure out, ooh, this is what I get to be. Like I get to fit in this magical box, even though that's not how it works.
Yeah, I mean, so when I worked at the pipelines, when I was HR director there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I started doing what they call 360s, which are multi-rater feedback. And I was developing and working with those. And I like that. I like the feedback part. I taught coaching skills for leaders, that kind of thing. But then after I left and was consulting, I actually originally worked with Bob Hogan, who has Hogan Assessments, and he mentored me on their assessments. And then I started using those with other energy companies and that kind of thing. So I just fell in love with it. And then I actually worked for them for a short time. Bob recruited me, but they were doing more selection and everything. And I wanted to work on leadership development. So I negotiated with Bob to buy data so that Kim and I could start our own assessment company. And that's how we started in 1998. And what I love is when we started, what we know about leadership, for example, it's largely ineffective. Studies have shown for decades that 50 to 75% of leaders are ineffective. But it was that way in 1998, and it's still that way today. So our goal back then, or our vision, was to revolutionize leadership. Because there's two reasons, for the most part, that leadership's broken. Number one is bad fit. A lot of people are in jobs that they're not best suited for. And that's what we do. We measure, are you a strategic leader? Are you, highly sociable, engaging leader? Are you maybe not a leader and do something else, right? Maybe you're better of a technical expert and that sort of thing. So we're very clear and honest about that. So there's a lot of mismatches, number one. And number two, the second thing, and this is what my book was about primarily, we also measure not only strengths and gifts, we measure risk factors that undermine success, and they show up under stress, adversity, when there's conflict or somebody's pushing your button. And so the risk assessment, what happens is we measure 11 different risks. Well, most people don't know what the risks are. So they're just running, they're happening all the time. Because how often do you think there's stress in business or on your job? A lot,
Pretty often.
pretty often, unless you're really in a role that you love and it's really going great, then fine. But most people, especially in corporate life or other organizations, there's a lot of stress. So we're seeing their darker sides, or they're ineffective. The other title we could have called our report is the ineffective coping strategies. So instead of your strengths showing, maybe you're an egotist, or you're a cynic, or you're a worrier, or a hyper moody, all these kinds of things show up. And what they do is they sabotage effectiveness in relationships with other people, right? So when you have those two things, bad fit and risks running amok, we have kind of a mess. And then the third thing that you would add to that is, then there's a lack of accountability. Even though we know these numbers are so, nobody's doing anything about it. Oh, we have all these high dollar consultants and all this and all the universities, but nobody's really tackling this issue of leadership effectiveness. We kind of dance around it because with us, we're really truthful about if somebody doesn't have a leadership, profile, we let them know that. We don't tell them what they want to hear. And actually, they're usually feeling better when you tell them the truth. Because if you're in a job you don't fit, that's when you struggle or you're unhappy and everyone around you's unhappy. Right? So it's a win-win. So we really, we're very honest and our assessments are very clear. We don't sugarcoat, but we help people find what they're really best at. And then also what they love, their passion. And then thirdly, we let them know what those risks are so they don't, fall off the track, so to speak, or get stymied or held back. So it's a lot of fun. It's eye-opening. And people, it's so funny because people love hearing about the risks in a way. And that may sound weird because it's something nobody's ever really told them. And they, they want to do well. So they're really open to it is what I mean. I'm not saying they're happy and excited they have them, but I think they're really, they receive the information quite well because they realize, oh, darn, I've been doing that. No wonder I'm not getting that promotion. Or no wonder I can't talk to Sam over there, kind of thing.
That's right, indeed. It ain't no Sam I am, it's Sam. They're making a run for it. So you mentioned 11 risks. Any three that you want to share with folks listening that they may need to be aware of?
Yeah. So in my book, what we found was there's a difference in genders on risks. And that's what's holding women back, is what we found. Men tend to be, you're going to love this, men leaders. And we're talking about kind of the leadership supervisory pool. Men tend to be egotists, upstagers, and rule breakers. No shock there, right? So they push the envelope, they're aggressive. Oh, I can do it, even though they may not have a clue, all that kind of thing. So under stress, they oversell, they push, they're kind of stubborn. They have a heightened sense of self kind of thing. Meanwhile, the women are worriers. So they overanalyze and go inside their heads. So what happens is, while the men are fighting for airtime, seeming courageous, the women are pulling back, wanting to be 100% right and not speaking up in the tough moments, right? So who do you think looks leader-like? Yet the woman may have far more strengths in leadership, better at building teams, better at, getting things done, etc. But in those tough times when sometimes decisions are made and judgments, men are aggressive and pushy and women are pulling back. So my second book is called Women Are Creating the Glass Ceiling and Have the Power to End It. So if they can learn tactics to stop doing those things under stress of pulling back and going inside their head and overanalyzing, they can then be present during those tough discussions and then they're promotable. But when we pull ourselves out of it, we're gone. We're out of mind and we lose visibility. Now, we also looked at CEO women and corporate executive women. CEO women, I love this. Their risks are identical to the men. They're egotists, upstagers, and rule breakers because they have to push and fight and claw. So they're raised, probably competitive and all these things, that they have that more aggressive profile. And the corporate executive women, though, they weren't egotists and rule breakers, but they were upstagers, meaning they could keep talking and push their point of view during those tough discussions. So while risks are ineffective overall, they still have a great impact on how we're doing, right? Or how we're perceived. So we're promoting men sometimes for the wrong reasons, not because they're the most capable, but because they're the loudest and the pushiest, but that doesn't necessarily always make them the most effective. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Sounds like the good old Peter principle, right?
Yeah. But the nice thing is, what I love about it is people, once you know what your risks are, you can develop tactics and strategies and practice so you can improve. You anticipate that last time I was in this meeting, I shut down. Now I have a plan. I'm not shutting down. Here's the 2-3 things I'm going to do to make sure I push my point of view out there. And we help executive coaches and others help people develop those tactics and practice them, right? Because I always tell women, if you think you're going to change, you're not going to change. You have to practice, because for all these years you've been shutting down. You're still going to shut down if you don't practice under simulated stress on how you can do something different. So that's what we do. That's how I spend my time having fun. And I get to coach some of the most even though we still had the avatar and all that, which is great because we work with a lot, but I have coached some just really interesting and amazing people. So I love it.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. I'm talking about, indeed. And it's interesting how that all kind of comes full circle where you mentioned with the statistic of, hey, a lot of leaders, what was it, 58% of leaders aren't even effective
Right.
because
It's
the
50 to 75%, anywhere in there, the studies are showing that we don't do a good job at selecting and promoting the right people into the right positions. And so then they're ineffective. And same at the C-suite level. They promote people in the C-suite. I think it's over 50% don't last 18 months. Well, that's not very good. So, so I think until we add like our scientific type measures to these processes, you're still going to be getting some of the people that are non-fits. And also what we do most important one-to-one is help people be self-aware. If you're not self-aware and you don't really know all your strengths and you don't know your risks or your passion, you're kind of wandering and you make a lot of career mistakes or you're disappointed a lot. So that's what for me is, I'm so excited that we can help people really understand themselves. The other side of that is many people are clueless as to what they're really good at, where their true gifts and talents are. So we help people, we actually help companies find hidden talent. Like you could have somebody working as a secretary and she could be your best IT analyst, just needs some training, right? So we've done those projects, and that's in our CDR coach, that's our avatar coaching system. We added in our career module, we added what's called a STEM fit review. So we actually tell people whether they have through their results, whether they have a STEM profile, for science, technology, engineering, and math. And you would be shocked as to how many people have this and don't even realize it. So they're underutilizing what they're capable of. How would they know? You go to high school, you maybe go to college. How would you know what your true inherent capability is? So it's really fun.
So right, indeed, it's always good to get that holistic view because it's like, oh wow, so you get to find out. It's like, oh, this is why we're in the situation that we're in. When you think about it, it's like, oh wow, they just got there and then they got to overcompensate by running into those wonderful risks of overcompensating for weaknesses and lack of knowledge. And it's like, oh shoot, let me figure
Yeah.
out what's going on here so that way I can
Right.
readjust. And then out of
Exactly.
nowhere, it's like, oh shoot, like what happened to my CEOs that made a run for it? It's like, oh, they figured out, they realized that they weren't cut out for it. They decided to go and do underwater basket weaving after all these years.
That's right. That's right. That's great.
So my goodness, since you've been on a few podcasts, is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often when you're on the guest side of the microphone?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, well, one question, since we're into this new technology thing, is what's it like to be coached by an avatar?
Uh,
You know, and so we get that question because I'm an executive coach. I train live executive coaches, but the avatar, and this was actually it was a request by the U.S. Army Civilian University, asked us if we could come up with something like this because they were using our executives for their leadership coaching, but wanted to be able to coach. They said 10,000 employees who needed the self-awareness. So their chief learning officer asked me if we could come up with this. And I'm like, and this was years back. And I said, well, yeah, I think we can. I had no idea. I'm like, I said, I'll get on it. Let me see what we can do. So anyway, what we picked for avatars, we just added two new ones, but we have humanoid and then we have animated. We just added the animated because some people aren't crazy about the humanoid coaches. So we just added those two. But what happens is, it's very deep. No two are the same. So when they talk and they're giving you all your information and reviewing your results and interpretations, it goes very deep. It calls you by name. It talks about your scores. It even combines different scores for you. So people have told us, especially the engineering types and financial types, they like it because they feel like they're in the non-judgment zone. They're getting this information for the first time. It's confidential and the avatar can't judge them. And they can take their time, understand the information, they can pause. So in that way, it's received very positively. The other thing for me was I had we beta tested with executive coaches and users and all kinds of groups, right? I had a couple of executive coaches, especially some that had their backgrounds in counseling. And one said to me, I just don't like the idea of a non-human coach. I think it's terrible. And I said to her, I said, well, I would say I would agree that it's not optimal. If whenever we can, human coaching, live coaching is always best, still is. But I said, but look at the 85% of employee populations who will never get this feedback. So we have the choice. We either do it this way with digital avatar coaching technologies to help people be self-aware, or we deny them the feedback. So for me, because I said in my lifetime, there's no way companies are going to be able to pay for all these people to have this coaching and assessment feedback. This way they can. So for me, it's that. And the other thing that I've learned, it's so weird. I've really had a personal transformation because I've always coached executives and C-suites and other executive coaches, so fairly high-level people. But I've learned, I've kind of flipped my thinking or paradigm because most of those people are in the last third or quarter of their career. We need to help people in the first quarter of their career. They're the ones that are getting held back, not going to the right positions, never seeing what they're really truly capable of. So I really had an awakening. Does that make sense? But I've spent, 30 years helping the top of the house or whatever you want to call it. And then now it's like, oh my goodness, and I have coached a lot of college kids over the years as favor to like clients and friends. Every kid that I've ever coached, like going into college, trying to figure out their major, or maybe they're in and they're not sure, every one of them, and there's got to be probably 25 in all these years, were in the wrong major, everyone without exception. So again, look how much time and effort and money people spend, or even if you're coming out with a GI Bill, if you're a veteran. We do a lot of work, philanthropic work, helping veterans with career transition, because we don't want them going in the wrong path. They've already sacrificed all this time for us, right? So if we can right track them to get into the right path, whether it's GI Bill or career, that's what's important to me. So anyway, so I've had this eye-opening experience after going through this as to how important it is. And even when it comes to diversity and inclusion and so forth, so many females and minorities are held back early because of their risks or whatever, some judgment, and they might be the most talented. And the only way you're going to find all these people is through this type of assessment, to get them on the best path early without holding them back or pigeonholing them. So that's the other part that I'm really excited about. So because it's objective, there's no adverse impact, it's the results are diversity neutral. So we find true talent. There aren't any biases or judgments, outside perceptions put into what we do. So that's exciting. It's self-report.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so I know that was a long-winded, but the avatar is kind of cool. I mean, so we added as I said, we added the animated, we have the humanoid. The only thing that, if you get some high perfectionist people who are really picky about everything, which is who they are by nature, we've had a couple people say, I don't like their lips. And I'm like, you're getting a wealth of information. Pay attention to the information. If you must, don't look at the lips, just listen and go along, but it's so funny. But a lot of those folks are in HR. They're kind of high perfectionists, high detail. And it's hard for them to sometimes see the benefit over some of the details. So, and it's new, it's change. We do get pushback because a lot of people don't like change. It's just like that coach said, I don't think it's good. And like I said, do I think it's the best thing ever? No, but I think it's good because it helps people and they get informed rather than staying in the dark and maybe having an unfulfilled career and even life. If you're not happy in your job and your vocation, and it can lead to just depression and all kinds of things, right? It can hurt family situations. It can hurt marriages because you're upset or unhappy, stressed with not making enough money and all these. And yet you could be a star over here if somebody just helped you understand that.
That's
And
right.
that's why I still love what I do. You can see, I know that I'm a grandmother, but I feel like I have a lot more to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense indeed. That's right indeed. Heck, even something I shoot for and decades ahead is like, oh yeah, all these folks in their wonderful 60s, 70s, and 80s still putting out their best freaking work. And it's like, they got all this
Yeah,
energy too. It's like some of them you meet, they got, heck, maybe even more than some. It's like they got more energy than 20 and 30-year olds out here because they don't know their purpose. And it's like, oh, it's great to see folks who are passionate about what they do. And heck, it is crazy though. I mean, because like 10,000 folks trying to coach all those folks, like you'd bankrupt the company. So it's like, well, here's a supplement, here's a middle where we can meet you at. You
exactly,
can't.
exactly. And, and it helps that it really does interpret. It's amazing. People, when they start to hear it and go through it, they're shocked at how detailed, how personalized, and no two are the same. The algorithms are that rich. The other thing is what the avatar says to the person is all written by executive coaches. So you're really getting, it's not AI formulated in the sky or in the cloud. It's actually many, many levels of scripts written by executive coaches. So you're really getting the feedback of an executive coach fed through an avatar. Does that make sense? So it does have the human touch in there, even though you got a humanoid telling you, or an animated actor. So
Oh, okay. So it's not a full AI device eating our lunch. Okay. Yep.
no, it feels like AI though. In the world of coaching, it's considered AI because the algorithms are so rich. And when people get the feedback, they're shocked at how much detail and how puts it all together for them. Because when you answer the questions and then you go through this, you will be in shock as to how we got that information. So then that's why it feels like AI. Does that make sense? Because it feels like it's so personalized that it feels like it's developing it as you go. And it is pulling all these different scripts out of wherever. So it's pretty, I think, amazing and impressive how personalized it is. It's not just like going through listening to the same old thing at all. And we have different videos that pop in and out. We have different graphics. And when it shows graphics, it's showing your report. So it's pulling your data right in and showing you. It's pretty slick, I think, for again, but it's not human. So and actually now when we train executive coaches, they get live coaching first before they go to our certification process. So they get their own assessments and have coaching. But about the third week, we have a 7-week program, 90 minutes a week. And I have the executive coaches take CDRU coach now too, because it helps them with the mechanics of how does the flow go, how do the introductions go, and so they can experience that. And that time, and when you go through it time 2, you're really paying attention more. The first time you're being coached, so it's more of a discussion.
So should coaches be scared that they have these magical software devices out there coaching people?
No, and what I tell them, it's to augment, it's to extend what they do. This actually can give them more business with their clients, not less, because they're still going to coach the top 15, 20% senior leaders, executives, high level people, directors, whatever, right? But then what about that 85% of people that nothing's happening for them? They can deploy CDRU coach, make a commission, but then they get the data. The data from all this can be used for succession planning, custom training. So it's both an enterprise and an individual solution, right? So that gives the coach more business. Then she or he can take care of the entire company, if you will. Does that make sense? Then they can do work. We do workshops after people go through CDRU coach, help them, work together more and understand. And it's pretty powerful. Or team development sessions after people go through their own coach. So there's a lot there might be some people we also offer live coaching if somebody needs it after the avatar. That's possible too. We haven't had people ask for that, but we make it available.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it's because
There
we
you
don't want
go.
to leave them out there hanging if they have questions, right? Eventually I'd like to put up a chat box, the coach chat, 24/7, where people can answer questions if anyone has any, or at least certain times of the day. So
Okay. All right.
I
I
hope we
got
don't,
you.
I don't want to alienate executive coaches. I just think here's the thing for the future that we have to think about. We have to start developing all people from the time we onboard. We can't wait And we also need to know what talent we have within our companies. Companies furiously are trying to recruit people, find talent. And often they have so much talent inside they're just ignoring. So I think for the way of the future is they're saying, all the studies are showing that it's going to be harder and harder to get talent that you need, right? So doesn't it make sense then to understand the talent that you have now and then build on that? Your own employees are going to be more loyal to you. They know your customers, they know your business. So I think I like the idea of investing in them when you can, you know. So that's, but anyway, I think that's the way of the future. You can't, you know, we do all these analytics for all these other sides of the business, but we don't when it comes to people. We just kind of said we wing it and we keep doing the same things. We use different semantics, but these, you know, a lot of these consulting firms are just selling the same old stuff. And I just go, you know, because they aren't doing the deep assessments to help get people on the right track, but yet they're building competency models and all these training programs. I remember many years ago, I was with, I don't know, Sunoco, Sun Oil, you know, and anyway, I was sent to a leadership development program, and you went 3 different weeks for high potential leaders. And we were like, I think it was like the 17th class, like they did one a year, right? And they're teaching you, you know, working on these values and all these other things. And then we, at one point, we all looked around at each other. We said, well, if we're the 17th class, what happened to the other 16? Because we weren't. So what we do, we teach when we do workshops, we use people's data. So if you're an egotist, you're going to get work on being an egotist and how to pull that back, how to communicate better, not let that show. Or if you're or if you tend to be abrupt, you're not a people person. Let's just say you'd like to focus on the work and not people. Well, we help you then to learn how to communicate and relate better, because it is part of your job and helping you understand what other people need and play that back and forth. So we don't do that generic training that all leaders should be this or that, because when you go in, you might pick up 10% of what they're saying, but a lot of it won't apply. But when it's designed around you, it sticks because it's all about you. So that's the whole key to all of this, is it's all about you. First, get self-aware, and then how do I play with others? How do I interact with others? And then you can transform organizations and make people happy. People are happier. You're not working for some crappy boss who, and I'm sorry, that's probably not a professional term, but that's okay.
Oh, but it's modern and it's true indeed. Heck, maybe even turn the crappy boss into a champion boss. Who knows?
That's right. That's right. Once they understand themselves, and also it's so funny. We'll separate people by, like, that's what we call low interpersonal and high interpersonal. So the high interpersonal are like nurturing, caring, sensitive, kind people. The others are indifferent and just don't give a rip about well, what happens is, though, when you separate them and you start have certain questions they have to go through and work first as a group and then together, they're like, no wonder I can't talk to you. No wonder you drive me, but they have to go through that first to understand, okay, so if she has high interpersonal sensitivity, how can I be more effective with her without making her super defensive, cry, or, whatever it is that the reaction is, and vice versa. How do I not get my feelings hurt? How can I be more direct with this person so they don't think I'm too squishy, so they can hear what I'm saying? When I train coaches, one thing I tell them to do, you'll like this from a sports perspective, I think. One thing I train them to do too is, when you're coaching, you have to put your game face on based on who you're coaching. So it's just like coaching, like in soccer or football. Is this a defensive player? Is this an offensive player? They all need something different. If you coach them all the same from where you're coming from, you've lost, right? I mean, right? So it's the same thing in coaching humans for, like, their performance and how they're doing their careers, is put your game face on. So if I'm coaching somebody who's low interpersonal sensitivity and is an egotist, so they're really abrasive and brash and rude, I will be more direct with them. I am not going to be, here comes kind, sweet Nancy down the road. I have to be more direct. That doesn't mean I'm going to be rude with them, but I'm definitely not going to let them think in any way that I'm too soft. because then they run all over you, right? And so even though a coach might have high interpersonal sensitivity, that's where they have to put their game face on, or don't coach that kind of person, right? If you can't do that. And same on the other side of it, if you get somebody who's really hard on themselves, low self-esteem, really kind-hearted, well, you're going to coach them differently than the egotist. Got to put the game face on. And same with leaders. Leaders have to put their game face on when they coach their people or work with their people. Not everyone should be treated exactly the same in the way that you communicate and build relationships, because people have different needs and different responses.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Different needs and responses indeed. So my goodness, my goodness. So it sounds like folks need to connect with you if they want to become a one-man coaching army. Sounds like that's right
That's
indeed.
right.
Take over the whole freaking organization. You and the machine working together, re-engineering the machine.
That's right. And the live part stays too. So we want the live coaching too.
So you're that right, folks. Don't go full cyborg on them. Don't go full
That's
cyborg.
right. No.
That's right. Go half. Go half. Just half.
Part, just the upfront, just the baseline. Like you're just giving them the foundation, and then you do the other things live and mix whatever you have. Right. So
Yeah, that's right indeed. So you got this magical book called Women Are Creating the Glass Ceiling, and you kind of alluded to why the glass ceiling is actually becoming tempered and bulletproof. So what led to the book and the title?
well, what led to it actually is our research. And I had my earlier book called About the Glass Ceiling too, but that was just research in North America. And it was the same premise, but it was an easier title, but fresh insights to end the glass ceiling. And that was in 2017. But this second one, we also then did research in Western Europe as well. And we found the same trend. So I said, I have to write another book. This is, and the reason for the title is to get women's attention. We can't sit around and whine and be victims. Okay. And warriors are pretty good at being victims, because they can turn it around. And if you wait, here's the other thing. You think if we sit around and wait for men, it's going to happen? No. And I'm not blaming men. But at the same time, they don't recognize what's going on either. They're the ones also promoting the wrong types. They need to learn from this as well. Here's my goal. I've always presented to all these women groups, all these women professional groups on this topic. And I'll maybe have 2 or 3 men in the audience. I want in the next year, I need to go after some groups of men, leaders and executives, so they get this information too, because they also have to change as well to understand, use scientific measures. You can't just judge people based on little snapshots of this and this and think you're getting the decisions right, and your gut feel is not right. I'm sorry. Based on an impression at a meeting, that kind of thing, or, oh, he went to the right school, he knows the right people, hangs out the right place, stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what drew me, again, I think and plus we had just had the election where Trump beat Hillary. It had already happened, all that stuff, and it was just more momentum. And there was the Me Too movement. All of that culminated that I said, I've got to get this book out, because I want women to be able to start helping themselves. I don't want women to sit back and wait for someone to, wave the magic wand and expect this glass ceiling to evaporate. It won't happen, until we take the reins and really bring it up a few notches and not hide away when the going gets tough. Because the truth of it is, with leadership, that is going to throw you off track. If when you're needed most, you detach or you avoid, you hide, well, that's not what leaders do. That's not what we expect them to do. If we have incoming, just imagine military, right? If they detach, and there's also a risk of detachment too, but worrying shows up like detach. It doesn't serve the team well when you all of a sudden stop communicating when they need you the most, right? So there is some reason why there's more weight to people who stay at least engaged and fight versus those who hide. Does that So there's three overall, even though we have 11 risks, there's what we call 3 coping strategies. One is using aggression, which is the egotist, all those male things I talked about. One is avoiding conflict, avoidance, run away, hide. And the third one that I didn't mention is what we call seeking affection. And that's a pleaser and perfectionist. So we measure that too. So you can cope any one of those 3 ways. And the funny thing is sometimes you'll get some complicated people who are egotists and pleasers. So what that means is with their teams, with people below them, the egotist shows up because they're tough and they're smarter and all this. But with their bosses, with senior leadership, then they're kind of pleasers and trying to be yes people and all that sort of thing. So they really show, like, people have concerns about working with people like that, because upward, they're kind of kissing up, and downward, they're really tough on others. So that's what the other thing that I love about all this is people are complex. When you see a lot of what they call assessments or styles inventories, like a Myers-Briggs or DISC or any of that, it doesn't measure any of this. These are all individual. No 2 are the same, and we don't lump you into a, some kind of category, because, like I say, everyone's different. We all have different strengths and risks and needs. And that's what we try to do, is help people grow, understand that, and then grow with that, right? Grow with who you are, and not force you into, like, one of the other things is you can be an extrovert, you can have high sociability and have your highest risk as detached. And people go, oh, that's not possible. Well, it is. Actually, I have that risk, right? I'm sociable. But if I get my feelings hurt or I'm really feeling stressed, I shut down talking to people. So my husband knows if I go quiet, something's wrong, right? So, but it does happen. So it just depends on what the trigger or stimuli is that's pushing you there, right? So different stimuli will cause different reactions for some people. So you are welcome to try it, Dom, if you'd like to. After this, seriously, I'd love for you to try it and get your feedback. So I'll leave that door open for you.
Ooh, sounds good in neighborhood. That's right, indeed. Assessments are where it's at. That's right, indeed. Get to find out some stuffs.
Right.
That's right, indeed. Get to confirm some stuffs too.
That's right.
That's right, indeed. So, my goodness, so if that wonderful book, Women Are Creating the Glass Ceiling, if that book were a food, what would it be and why?
That's an interesting one. What is food? Oh, well, I don't know. Something that I really like that's got a little bit of a bite. Some nice queso hot dip. So it's kind of, it pulls you in, but then when you taste it, it has a nice bite to it. Something like that. Okay. Or a fresh shrimp with a really hot cocktail sauce. Is that better for people who don't like the cheesy thing? Like nice spicy hot.
Hey, don't worry, you can do both. It's okay. That's right,
Yeah.
indeed. Shrimp tacos are good too.
And then at the end, it's dessert. Your drivers and rewards. It does go into that too. It's kind of your ice cream or your cake at the end. What do I love? What makes me happy? What makes me feel fulfilled? What makes me proud? All those kinds of things.
So there you have it, folks. That's right, indeed. It's that book that you're going to turn that broken glass into sprinkles on some ice cream. Just don't eat that ice cream, though.
Sugar, low sugar.
Yeah, that depends on if the glass was sugar, too. Let me stop.
Right.
So my goodness, coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is, if you'd all wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but still in 2023, what advice would you give to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I would say find a way to become self-aware so that you can really find your true gifts, your talents, all that, and what you love. Get to know yourself and really go with that. The other thing I would say is work hard and try to, if you can, be a problem solver. whatever you're doing. Even if you're working at a McDonald's, I don't care where you're working, working your way through college, take a different subject, give it a try. I think to explore, but the other thing is try to work in ways that show you're determined, you can do this. And that's what people will notice about you. Be willing to push a little further than maybe what somebody expects. And you will be they will be pleasantly surprised, and you will be too. Don't hold yourself back. Just go with it. And it's okay occasionally to make a mistake. I even think today I make more mistakes than I don't. I mean, it's part of learning. It's part of trying. So you got to push yourself out there and be willing to, take some risk, but work hard and try to find ways to enjoy what you do. If you can enjoy your work, it isn't work anymore. And you have that choice. Do I want to work and enjoy it, or do I have to work and feel like I'm miserable? I mean, I think that's an easy choice, right? So, but find yourself, find what you love, find what you're good at. And if you get those two things in shape, what am I really good at? Where are my strengths? And what is it that I love to do? What makes me feel happy? Merge those two and go with that. And you'll never go off track, right? Too often we have people maybe are passionate about something, but they don't have the skill sets or the capability, or they're strong at something, but they're bored to tears when they go in the work. That doesn't work. You have to merge those two things. What am I really good at innately? And then what gives me passion? What gets me excited? So that's what I want young people to look for. And work can be a blast. You can be smiling and have a blast. My first job was at McDonald's. So I'm a McDonald's graduate. So you can work your way up to all kinds of things. And I always had, here was the other thing. I kind of had this a bit when I was working at higher level jobs, when I was very young and I was being promoted and everything. And, and I was kind of a risk taker. I would say what I thought and push through whatever, but I never felt afraid of being fired. You know why? Because I knew, and even when I was HR director and I was in some tough meetings and this and that, I did the right thing, held my head high, because I knew I could flip burgers if I had to. If I had to put food on the table, I could take 2 jobs if I needed to. So I didn't bank my security in whether somebody was going to get mad or fire me. I banked it in, I can work. It may not always be the best job that I want. I'll move to something else eventually. So don't place your security in somebody else's hands. Put it in yourself. If you're willing to work, you can rise to whatever you really are well suited and what you want to do. So just don't let people put fear in you. Just work hard and have fun at it.
Yeah. That's right indeed. Don't let people put fear in you. That's right indeed. Put some vitamin C in you. That's right indeed. AKA courage as
Right.
well. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Right indeed. A lot of fear mongers out there trying to sell you on, no, it's all bad. Like, no, don't buy into it. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Buy into your own greatness. And Nancy's gonna help you find it. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So for those who need that help in finding it, getting that wonderful compass to a new level of growth, and buy some copies of your books and keep up with your journey, what's the best way for folks to do so, Nancy?
The best way is just to go to our website. It's cdrcompanies.com. That's cat, dog, rat companies.com. Or you can also link with me on LinkedIn. It's Nancy E. Parsons. I'm happy, let me know, send me a note, link with me. But and it's got all of our contact information there. My book's available on Amazon, of course, so you can get it there as well. So any one of those 3 is perfect. And if you're interested in CDRU Coach, we're happy to talk to you about that too, because we want to help people. And we're working with a number of nonprofits and others, really some exciting things that we're doing. So let us know if we can help.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. That's right indeed. Reach out. Folks can help out. That's right indeed. It ain't just Nancy. She's got one of those wonderful laughing Buddha hands, 1,000 of them. That's right indeed. That can help out your organization. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. It's like that Nickelback Feed the Machine video. She'll feed your executive organization with some good old coaching that they need to get to their next level. That's right, indeed. They'll get that slight edge indeed. So, my goodness, any parting words before we close up shop?
No, just thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. Enjoyed it.
Thanks a bunch for investing your time by listening to this wonderful podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you really did, do me a solid and leave a review or share this episode with at least 3 people that you think would get some value out of today's content. Advance others to advance yourself.